Dr. Orire, 6 months after the takeover of the government by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would you say the country is better than it used to be in his predecessor's time?
Is it, if Nigeria is to benefit at all from this regime, we must suffer. I want to be raw. I don't want to be diplomatic or apologetic. If you do not stop the rot in the oil department, if you like, you close your eyes to subsidy because you do not want people to cry, it will continue to get worse. Yes, people have done something to Naira-dollar relationship. The Naira is falling. So you have to prepare the ground before you use political will to say this is how much I want my money to stand. It could be pronounced, I want my money to be 200 Naira to $1. But if there is no production, if the consumption is not reduced, outside consumption, if there is no probity and sound management of the economy, you have a worse scenario than what happened to Ghana. So necessarily, you could stop the parallel market in a day. I say pronounce, I want my Naira to be the amount denominated from the central bank. No parallel market. We know parallel market is evil, but stopping it with a fiat might be very counterproductive because you are shopping up a lot of money in the hand of few, and those few will fight. And you are not yet manufacturing anything. You are not yet managing your debt. You are not yet managing the external outside world arm of the economy. Your loan. You are not servicing your loan very well. So these are things. Then there is what we call fraud and corruption. You should clamp it down. But if the legal structure is not there, if the security structure is not there, if the education is not there, you do anything rashly, you are going to pay for it. And when the president pays for it, the government pays for it. Much more so with the plethora of military coups going up north in Africa. You understand? So what we are going through, we are still going to go through it in the next 1 year for us to see any result. And we have a head start in Tinubu. His experience is brilliant. He's an accountant. That's his field. And he's a people's man. So I know he will do something. There is no way you can compare what Tinubu will have done with what Atiku will have done, or what Obi could have done, or what Buhari could have done in fixing the economy and what is happening in Nigeria. You understand? Looking at the qualification, professional qualification, political attainment, the kind of exposure Tinubu has in normal life, you will know that what he's doing are calculated to make sure Nigeria comes back. You see, when you fall a house, you collapse a house, you can do that in 1 hour. But to build that house will take 1 year, 2 years. This nation is so rotten that you cannot trust your wife when you give her money for soup. That is even your family. If your son, who is in the university, does not add to his pocket money or what he's going to ask, that will be a special boy. He will just say, I need 10 naira, and 10 naira will be what he needs. If a university student does not do Yahoo, he will be laughed at, he will be scorned by his mate. That is how bad Nigeria is. Forget about the billions and trillions they are stealing. People are practicing it even in their family. Secondary school students are already into cultism. What are they doing with cultism in the secondary school? People in SS2, SS3 are already doing Yahoo to buy car. What type of car? What do they know about cars? Nigeria is that bad. So we have to be pragmatic. We don't have to say when it was not there, petrol was cheaper. When it was not there, palm oil was cheaper. No, that's not the issue. The issue is what are we going to do to make the transition less bloody or non-bloody, and that we are still going to get Nigeria to a good level in the next 3-4 years before it starts looking for the second term. You understand? These are things that we must look at. We must be pragmatic in assessing this situation. If we are emotional about it, we say, no, it's worse off. No, you have to start. You have to plan it. When you want to build a house that the rainstorm has destroyed, you start from the foundation. You don't start looking at the roof. So that is it. We have to be patient, and we have to be very, very understanding. Otherwise, it will get worse. We are still going to suffer a bit. I repeat, we are still going to suffer a bit. But if we cooperate, in another 2 years, we'll smile. Because the naira will not continue like this. Fuel will not continue like this. When the refineries spring up, when production increases, you see, things will naturally calm down. In fact, there will be a limit. There's a limit to suffering. You understand? There will be a limit in the market. When you say you want to sell a tuber of yam for 10,000 naira, people will say no. Go and eat your yam. They will drink water and sleep. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a limit to suffering. If we want to make it like a house that is going to be rebuilt by a builder and an architect and a planner, we have to take time. We have to see it coming. We have to do the pros and cons of what we're going to do, and that is exactly what is happening. So Tinubu, even this money is distributing, is a waste of time. What do they call it? Palliative. I don't see it's going to worsen the situation. We don't need this palliative. I'm sorry, it's not because I can afford it. I can't afford it. I have 4 generating sets in my house. I can't fuel this generating set without anything to do with it. Before, I would put on light throughout the day because I could afford it. Now the generators are there. I cannot afford petrol. So it's biting me too. That's my personal experience. You understand? So if I cannot buy fuel to my generator, I'm not enjoying at all. So, but we have to be patient. We have to allow him to be able to do it. If he cannot fix anything in 2 years, he knows he has failed.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. If you cannot see the effect of removal of subsidy in 2 years, he has failed. If you cannot affect positively on naira value in 2 years, he knows he has failed. But 6 months he has just started applying these things. He has not, if I were there, he has not affected to the 10% of what he should do. The way he should run government, the way he should manage money, the way he should manage even ministers, what he should do to curb the senators and the reps, what he should do in Aso Rock to run Aso Rock well. So we are still going to see a lot of things. But no coup, if we don't have any coup and the Nigerian populace is patient, in another 2 years, you have a score sheet. And I know if they allow him to be a good score sheet.
Dr. Ajayi, when the government kicked off, a lot of Nigerians actually expected that in being sensitive to the situation, the economic situation of the country, the government was going to reduce the cost of governance and perhaps even reduce allowances, salaries, emolument generally. But it has not been so. How do you defend the government's sensitivity to the current economic situation of this country?
I don't know how to interpret this Yoruba program, but what it simply means is that you don't start a day in your house by fighting your wife, picking on the youngest one and the oldest one, and picking on your oldest son and the youngest one. I mean, you're just coming out from that. I think
that's a rough fight.
If I will lose it, your first son is likely to be stronger than you. By the time you already have 6 wives, 12 wives, and so on. So your first son is definitely stronger than you. If you slap him and he remains standing, is out of respect. The structure of governance and government in this country is only a brilliant man who could have done what Tinubu did. He allowed vehicles to be bought 160 million for 180 people. He knew that he would be failing if he started fighting the Senate and fighting the House of Reps. He doesn't even have the power to override their decisions, except when it's a law that they can point to, section this, section 12. Their existence in Abuja is not by Tinubu. So, if you look at what Tinubu had done carefully, he refused to fight with the Senate. He refused to fight with the House of Assembly. He refused to fight with the Council of Elders. And he also refused to fight with the military. Because what we had in 8 years was not just problems. It was an intermix of one problem could have even turned some nations upside down. Military problems. We had Boko Haram. We had the Yoruba nation thinking of going away. We had the East talking about a resurgence of Biafra. As if that was not enough, there was cheap money going all around. Cheap money. People who had never seen a million before started seeing 100 millions in one day. The main source of our revenue became truly our revenue when some boys in Sokoto, when some boys in South would be drilling oil from government oil from 34 points. Those are 34 millionaires. When you drill from about 600 points, you have promoted and produced 600 multi-millionaires. They were not paying tax, the oil is not for them, and they now had local technology to refine. We made so many millions, and with money being that cheap, you knew that it could bring in AK-47. We've never had a number of AK-47s that we had. What we had in Nigeria was more than what Nigeria had during the Civil War. What is the implication? If a clever man does not take over to make sure that he starts neutralizing these sub points one after the other, there would have been a fall of this country by now. And if you look at the East today, for 2.5 months, nobody has been able to say go and sit at home. Tinubu and his military team, they have been able to tame that lion. If you go to the north now, so Maiduguri had the first graduation ceremony in 8 years. They could not, because Boko Haram would have invaded the place, would have carried all the guests, and perhaps even carried some of the wives of ministers. And so, what do we have now? We are already having some sanity in some places. Boko Haram is going down. ISIS is fleeing almost every day. In the Yoruba now, we are looking at, let us see what they will do to Tinubu. Maybe there will be a resurgence of to your T.S.O Israel. To your T.S.O Israel in the Yoruba land means that the Yorubas who are in Nigeria with the Yorubas who are outside Nigeria will come together. The Yorubas had never talked like that before. It was not their own way of thinking. Their history had already shown them as extremely viable people. They can be viable on their own. After all, we practiced democracy before, 400 years before any part of Europe. So it's a genetic thing for us. We even read this, we read whatever is going on in the democratic space better than any other group. But that is not what we are asking. The truth is that even in 6 months, now there's a lessening of hardship. People wanted him to be a magician, turn the economy around overnight, turn the military situation, the security situation around overnight, improve our currency overnight. Don't forget that Tinubu that we are talking about, he started working with whites. He understands the way they work. And there will be an influx of Europeans, an influx of these people that you call Arabs coming into this country because of what? Because they know him. They had met him in Texas or wherever he worked before. Mobile, yes. So what we have to do is to wish him well. And if we truly love this country, we must wish him well. Otherwise, this, like Dr. Oriri said, this country is prone to disintegration. And it's not disintegration that is occasioned from outside. It's going to be an implosion that will come from inside. Young boys who are not working, young boys in the East who want to become millionaires overnight. Our values are being eroded. Our values are even being confused. I never knew that a Yoruba boy at 14 would be married to ride a Mercedes Benz. But boys in secondary school, I think the greatest problem that is having now in the political strength is that we have forgotten a group of people that should have been involved in the political structure building for a long time. It's not for Baba to go and reduce their salaries. The Directorate for Social Mobilization produced events and programs and projects that made us to now like democracy. MAPSA in those days. They are the guardians, and they brought democracy into fruition again in this country. But what happened as soon as we had this in 1990? They were the first to be pushed. People like Professor Jerry Ghana and all those brilliant men, Bayo Tanda from Ibadan. Wonderful human beings who popularized democracy and who should have been the angels and guardians of our democracy. They were pushed out. So there's nobody talking about what kind of democracy is this. Is it a full-time job? Or is it a part-time job? If a part-time job will give you pension, if a part-time job will get you 160 million brand new car, that is no longer a part-time job. But all of them have been excluded from building structures that would have defended the democracy that we have and would have determined the type of democracy that we are doing. So, hopefully, my mind goes to what Abbas just said about Tinubu. He called him the wizard of politics. That for 4 years as president, He wanted to neutralize them. And for 4 years, the man avoided being neutralized, and in fact was always 2 steps ahead of the president. I hope he will be able to do this again. And I know that we as Dr. Ajayi, as a Yoruba person, the only way we can talk is when we say that look at what we achieved under a truly representative government where the Yorubas had a say. Where they had a say. There are problems now, but he said 4 years or 3 years. I want to agree with him that in 3 years' time, we'll be counting gains and not losses.
And how optimistic are you of an economic turnaround in Nigeria under this government?
Very high. Because if you look at the way he started, you know that he has a plan. He has a plan. After the inauguration of the ministers, he called them for a retreat, and he told them that if you want to remain, you want your job to be secure, you have to perform. In fact, I understand the sign and undertaking that if none of them is performing, they could be removed. We are talking about Asiwaju. Asiwaju cannot be everywhere. He's going to make use of men and women. And by calling them for a retreat and, teaching them on how to perform and get results, I think he started well. Not only that, he has started meeting some investors outside Nigeria, and the feelers we are getting is that they are coming. And when we have investors, these investors are the ones that can grow the economy. And when the economy is okay, every other thing will be okay. We have jobs, we have people passing out from school, and they are gainfully employed. So I'm of the opinion that better days are coming for Nigeria. We should just have a little patience. Rome, they say, was not built in a day, and we cannot build Nigeria in a day. But we have seen the handwriting on the wall that Nigeria is being built, and by the grace of God, we shall smile.
I just want to add to what the coordinator has said, and this had formed some of our discussions and teaching glances at the T.S.O. Southwest Elders Committee, because all the people who are here, they are members of the T.S.O. Elders Committee in the Southwest. And I know that we had discussed at a level that if you look at the people who are now talking in favor of, it's no longer based on ethnicity, it's no longer based on tribes. In fact, the greatest defender is the Ribadu man, who speaks, is a gentleman, is a full Fulani person. Did you hear what he said? He said Tinubu has not contributed 1% to the failing of Nigeria, that over the last 8 years, the people who are there contributed 70% to the problem that we have. And that is a Fulani man defending even Tinubu on the issue of number of Yoruba men in government now. And he just laughed and said there were agencies, security agencies that were taken over by only one ethnic group in Nigeria. This man may have known, put 10 Yorubas, 8 Fulanis, 7 Igbos, and so on. You cannot call that an ethnocentric government. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. But the good thing is that when this defense comes from not a person like me, but a person like from the east, a person from the north, a core northerner, for instance, then you now know that Tinubu is already working. That some things are being felt already now. Unfortunately, it will take time before all of us. You don't expect the pedestrians to appreciate the goodness of a road. The man who is a pedestrian is only walking on the bypass. He's not driving a car. So you don't ask him, is the car driving well? When the man is not driving. And he just wants to eat. So for the generality of people to start feeling the adequacy of the presidency, it will be when some things come to them, things that they can eat, things that they can wear, and things that they can use to wash themselves. Water. So all the indices of development will have to be rebuilt now. They will have to be rebuilt. Good roads, good electricity, or at least ample electricity, good banks, and so on. Let me end here by saying that perhaps it's not even the politicians who are stealing the most. People who are working in the bank, who are helping them to steal, are equally guilty. Any bank make to look at to bank basile. That is exactly what has happened. The last 8 years, bankers have made money as much as the politicians.
By helping politicians to steal.
I was going to add to, as a caveat to what he said about senators and rep emoluments. You see, when you want to spend money, you budget it. When you want to take salaries, you legislate against it. I mean, for it. You discuss it and agree. We have 3 arms of government. A president cannot just come one day and say, no, you cannot buy this. No, you cannot take this salary. He knows that it could be outrageous. They don't need this signature to take what they have approved. You understand? And if he has to do it, they have, just like he has an executive power, which he cannot wield carelessly. They have the legislative power. They can impeach him wrongly, I bet wrongly. And the things will get worse. And Nigeria will suffer. They might lose on the long run, but Nigeria will, because of that, fall apart. So you have an egg in your hand, and the egg is itching you. If you crush the egg, the itching will stop. But when you crush the egg, what do you gain? You can't gain anything. It falls away, breaks. So you have to find a way of wriggling the thing out, and you must not drop it on the ground. So it has to take, he has to talk with them, mediate, and agree. It's only when that one fails that he uses external forces to give them something like blackmail. Then he has to go around carefully. Their lifestyle have been determined before he took over. And if you don't change it, they cannot change. Even if he sponsors a bill, they are going to discuss it. Even an executive bill still has to be consented to. Until they really fail woefully, and the whole country agrees with them, or part of the ruling class agree with them, he cannot do anything decisively. Otherwise, it will crush him, crush the Senate, and crush Nigeria. So it is a very sensitive issue. But I know that they know that what they are taking is disproportionate.
People of the fountain,